jump to a diagnosis. And this is the easy thing. A doctor has 15 minutes. They give you a short synopsis and they label you. For 20 years, I was physically disabled by tardive dystonia, a side effect of antipsychotics. I had a blue Hancock, permanent disability. I was told I had zero chance of recovery. In fact, I recovered to neurological baseline. My recovery was very rare. Most people do not recover to baseline for tardive dystonia. However, I held out a month. I was not warned at all about the detrimental effects of psychiatric medications. I held out a month, and I was a complete insomniac. So what did they do? They prescribed benzodiazepines for me for insomnia. In fact, my tolerance grew extremely quickly, and I became more of an insomniac very, very quickly. So in fact, benzodiazepines were profoundly harmful to me. And I think that this is all too common, that people do not know the side effects of psychiatric medications before they start taking them. As with anything I say, if it works for you, I have no problems with that. I want people to know the risks before they take it. There are many people who are afraid to reach out for help because they are afraid that they are going to be committed to a psychiatric hospital. And this is something that I have feared for a long time. I have a psychiatric advance directive saying, do not commit me for any reason unless I'm a danger to others. And my preference would be for my best friend or my mother to be called in the case of a psychiatric emergency. Many people are afraid to call 988. I think that the 988 is there for a reason. 988, in my experience, unless you are openly suicidal, they do not overreact. If you can assure somebody that you're safe, and do not have a plan, they'll talk to you for a few minutes and you're okay. There are many people who are afraid to call 988 because they will be committed. I have just created a charity, and one of the points of the charity is to advocate for 988 operators to not be overreactive in situations that can be resolved with talking to somebody for a few minutes. It's very different if you are on a balcony with pills in your hands. At that point, I agree. A 988 operator has few options. But if I say I looked at my jar of Valium, normally that is something that can be resolved with talking for a few minutes.
Right.
And I think that I've always been afraid that if I called 988 or I reached out for help, that would be my bar or my custody. I encourage people to bring a family member or a friend into doctor's appointments with them, because so often people do not make decisions in their wise mind because they are pressured to make decisions very quickly. I think that this is an incredibly detrimental dynamic because the medical system often pressures people to make decisions very, very quickly. The other thing I talk about is that people can report psychiatrists. I have reported to psychiatrists this year. Reporting means that you say, because psychiatrists, like any other doctors, they do make mistakes. And I firmly believe that doctors should be accountable when they make mistakes. I, as an attorney, I have filed a lawsuit against somebody who I firmly believe failed to give me informed consent. This is something that I feel exceptionally strongly about. And unfortunately, few attorneys will take these types of cases because they are extraordinarily expensive to try. I wish that there were more people who would take these cases. And unfortunately, usually absent catastrophic consequences, these cases are not taken. I have been searched the world for cures for withdrawal, and I would have paid anything I had to get withdrawal over with quickly. And there are so many people who are taken by doctors who say, I will cure you, pay me money. And not doctors, but any sort of life coach or professional who say, give me money and here's hope. It is good to have hope and positivity, but at the same time, realism is very important as well. And I think that this year I've been offered false hope on too many occasions. I am trying to stay positive because with anything, with cancer or with any mental health condition, having a positive attitude is always very important. Having good self-esteem and feeling good about yourself. The cardinal rule, choose yourself first, is something that I have often failed to do. It is so important to take care of yourself, to be there for anybody else, and to set boundaries to protect yourself. And there are so many people, in the legal profession who work 80-hour work weeks. In the end of their career, they realize that they have a ton of money in the bank, but what do they have? They haven't had time for their child or for themselves. I think that this is a detrimental dynamic, that you need to spend the time when your child is small, young, if you can, to do things with your child. I wish things had gone differently this year, but I am trying to stay in the moment and think positively. Because when people start thinking negatively and say, oh my God, the world is over, then you think the world is over. And staying in the present and thinking, okay, there is going to be a brighter day. There is going to be a day with more sunshine in the future. And that withdrawal is not going to be infinite, is far better for me than sitting here and saying catastrophically, this is the end of the world. Because positive attitude is frequently something that's much better for you. But also admitting reality. I had people telling me that I would be doing ice skating till late at night, not doing ballet late at night. And I think that was unreasonable for doctors to be having me think that I was going to be able to do ballet late at night. I am completely conscious late at night, but I can't do ballet late at night. I'm trying to do other physical activities. For me, my worst issue in withdrawal is insomnia. Insomnia is a frequent symptom of withdrawal. Many people go to seizures. They have akathisia. Their blood pressure spikes. These are things that, because I am very careful and I have never misused a substance, and I have doctors who trust me, are unlikely to happen. There are so many people who do not have a doctor who trusts them. And this is very unfortunate because many people try to get off psychiatric medications themselves without doctor supervision, which can be incredibly dangerous. There are many people who go to their doctor and say, I'd like to get off of psychiatric medications. And they are told, okay, it looks like you need the psychiatric medication. Instead of being listened to, their truth is being invalidated. They therefore, they go and they try to, they might buy benzos, they might try to do it on themselves and on the streets. There are many, and this is, it's very dangerous. So I advocate for more doctors to know the risks of withdrawal. There are so many people who do not know. My orthodontist had never heard of psychiatric medication withdrawal. And many therapists have never heard about it or do not know it very well. In my community, there is nobody who will admit that they are in psychiatric medication withdrawal. So this is often a very lonely place for me. I am public as public can be. When I post public on social media on 6 platforms. It's something that I enjoy doing. If you don't, it's no bad on you if you do not enjoy it. but people are often reluctant to reach out or admit that they are struggling. I think that that is an incredibly unfortunate dynamic. I, for so long, thought when I was physically disabled, I thought if I spoke that my custody or my bar would be taken from me. In fact, when I applied for my bar, I passed the bar in my first attempt, but I had to spend $8,000 for a letter stating that was compliant with psychiatric dictates, merely because there were antipsychotics in my records. There was no omission. There was nothing that I had done wrong. Just because I had to disclose that I was on antipsychotics, I had to spend $8,000. I think that the assumption that somebody is not proficient merely because they have a psychiatric medication in their records is incredibly unfortunate. Yeah. There is a lot of bias and discrimination against anybody who admits that they have mental health issues in this society. There are people who think that I've lost it when I speak publicly about things like this. I freely admit that I am intermittently suicidal. No, I do not do anything, but this is not something that merits commitment to a psychiatric hospital. These are bad thoughts. For so long, I thought that I had to have a provider on who charged me $2,222 for an emergency appointment in the event that I became intermittently suicidal. These are things that, in fact, most therapists or 988 can deal with. And so, my fears, I've ended up spending a ton of unnecessary money because I did not realize that a mainstream therapist or 988 could deal with the little issues in my life. Yeah. I advocate for people to always feel free to ask for help. And I think that that is something I've often felt like I could not ask for help when I was struggling. There are so many, I wish that things had gone differently this year. I firmly believe that if I had had better coping resources as a child, I would not have been put on antipsychotics at age 20. That having therapy as a child would have made me would have led to a different diagnosis and a different course of action at age 20. In fact, we firmly believe I had autistic meltdown with high anxiety. My family wanted the best for me, and they rushed me into psychiatrists who labeled me as being bipolar 1. This was something I actually looked up what bipolar 1 was, and I acted the part. Because you label me, and I say, okay, that's who I am. So many people, once they're labeled, they say, okay, that's who I am. I'm going to be the label that you have. My doctors have now told me in Withdraw, for me, all that's left is likely insomnia. Early morning sunshine is nature's best remedy. Gentle exercise, and you get through it. And treating yourself with kindness and forgiveness. These are the cheap things. Going out in the morning in the sunshine and doing things for yourself. The things that you wouldn't know it looking at me, but I am considered 100% disabled by my doctor because I have severe cognitive issues in Withdraw. I have trouble following an entire TV show. I can follow parts of it, but comprehending it all in a row is difficult. I can read, but reading an entire book is very, very difficult for me. So I try to concentrate on the things that I can do. I can write and I can speak. I'm trying to find things that I enjoy doing. And I think that it's very important for everybody to find the things that they enjoy doing. Whatever it is that's good for you, those are the things that you should concentrate on. I have an article in Mad in America that details my traumatic childhood. This is something that is all too common, that the system failed me as a child. I was in a psychiatric hospital at 16, and after my only suicide attempt, and at 20. These are things I do not think I've ever in my lifetime met the standard for being a commitment. And yet it has been my greatest fear for a long time that somebody would put me into a psychiatric hospital and give me psychiatric medications that I did not want to have. I think there are so many people who are very much afraid of the psychiatric system because they have been hospitalized for reasons that did not necessitate hospitalization. I know this is big pharma. Big pharma, pills are the cheap solution, the easy solution. I think that this is incredibly unfortunate that pills are so much cheaper. And what is a psychiatrist going to do in 15 minutes when Big Pharma is telling them, they get funding from Big Pharma. I don't fault the psychiatrists because they have very little choice. But having more time, psychiatrists had more time to spend with you, they might be able to get more to the issues that you are struggling with. As with anything, if it does whatever works best for you. I have friends for whom psychiatric medications work well. And as long as they know the risks, I have no issues with that. Benzodiazepines, the warning is 2 to 4 weeks, or you may become physically dependent. As somebody who has no medical knowledge, how am I to say whether I am going to become physically dependent? I have to trust a trusted physician. I have put my trust in the wrong physicians this year, and I freely admit that. But how do you know? How do you know in advance? I am lucky that I have resources right now. And I'm lucky that I am trusted. There's so many people who go into the doctor and they think, you may be misusing a substance. And that is an unfortunate dynamic because people do not want to go to the doctor and do not trust their doctors. I am in benzodiazepine groups where people have doctors who do not trust them. I was in a group where people were basically encouraged to lie to their doctors to get off of psychiatric medications. I want to advocate for everybody to have a doctor and a therapist who trusts them. I think diet is incredibly important. Diet and hydration. And a few dietary changes could have helped so that I was not put on psychiatric medications. I freely admit, I chose ketosis. Ketosis was not good for me. However, eating healthy foods and colorful foods is something that is very important to me.
Yeah.
And I think that diet is something that should be important to anybody. What you put inside your body is very important. And you need to take care of yourself and yourself to be there for anybody else. I take benzodiazepines because I'm physically dependent. If I do not take them, I eventually will go to seizures. May go to seizures. I take them exactly as directed. There are so many people, there are people who have accused me. I've been to the ER and I've been accused of being an addict. And this is incredibly unfortunate because I am reluctant to seek medical attention for physical conditions because I am afraid that people are going to say that I am a mental health case. I mildly strained my leg a week or two ago, and I was afraid to go to urgent care because they might tell me that this was a mental health issue. In fact, they said, no, you mildly strained your leg. Okay, not the end of the world. But many people are reluctant to seek out medical attention for fear that they're going to be told that this is a mental health issue, when in reality, there's a physical issue involved. And that is, I think, a detrimental dynamic. And so often, doctors do, I went to the ER last August, and I was spasming because I have spasmed and withdrawal. And they were talking about whether I was misusing a substance and were jumping to conclusions. That experience has made me reluctant to seek out medical attention.
Yeah.
I think that this is something that is all too common, that doctors jump to the conclusion that you might be misusing a substance. So I firmly believe that there should be more awareness in ERs and in the medical system that you do not jump to the conclusion that somebody is misusing a substance unless there is a firm indication that somebody is misusing the substance.
Yeah. Right.
There are so many people who are so much worse off than I am, who have had their doctors, who are cut cold turkey on psychiatric medications, meaning that they stop taking them. And this is incredibly detrimental to stop taking a psychiatric medication abruptly.
Yeah.
These are, if somebody doesn't know what they're doing and the doctor doesn't know what they're doing, there could be catastrophic consequences. There are many people who are urged to go to detox. In reality, detox means they take you off of benzodiazepines within 2 to 4 weeks, and you often struggle for years. Detox is not generally recommended for benzodiazepine withdrawal. For alcoholism, it is more recommended than it is for benzodiazepine withdrawal. But many people are pushed into detox because they want an easy solution, a quick solution. And their psychiatrists want this to be off their hands because there are liability issues for psychiatrists. The psychiatrist whom I have filed suit against, I firmly believe I did not get informed consent at all. This was something that was extraordinarily difficult for me to do. But I felt very strongly that I needed to sue this psychiatrist in order to make certain that nobody else suffered as much as I did. I don't necessarily think I'm going to get any money out of this suit, but it's something that I am doing because I feel very strongly about it. And as a medical malpractice attorney, I can file suit. But this is very stressful for me. Most of the time, if I would tell my clients, my doctors, if there was a minor mistake, you should apologize. And that would make it less likely to file a suit. There are many issues, especially with general practitioners. You make a minor mistake and you talk about it with your patient. And this, there is no lawsuit. Generally, the amount of controversy is not great enough. I do not expect an apology from this case, but I would urge doctors, when I was taking malpractice cases, for minor mistakes, an apology goes a long way. You either apologize or you say nothing at all. This year I've reported 2 psychiatrists. The first one, instead of apologizing or saying nothing at all, responded very quickly in a secure message, lying about when my last appointment was. This would not be the advice that I would give to any doctor who has a patient who is potentially going to sue you for malpractice. I could never be a paid gun again for something that I do not believe in. I do not want to be paid to represent people I do not believe in. I firmly believe that anybody who is struggling with mental health issues should be able to get disability benefits. The system so often does not give disability benefits to those people who would prefer to use holistic means to heal themselves, like breathing through panic attacks or um, or using ice packs. And I think that this is an incredibly detrimental dynamic. If a prescriber has prescribed you a psychiatric medication and you do not want to take it, you are unlikely to get benefits. Anybody who's struggling with mental health or physical health condition should have equal rights to get disability benefits.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at the SSI project at Legal Services of New Jersey. At the SSI project, I firmly believe that's almost fully funded by welfare. The attorneys and the staff at Legal Services I firmly believe, knew almost nothing about the detrimental effects of psychiatric medications. And it was vastly disturbing to me that people on TikTok knew more about it than the attorneys and staff. When I resigned on disability, I offered them a free training to educate their attorneys and staff about the detrimental effects of psychiatric medications. Instead of accepting that free training, I was legally threatened for speaking publicly about what happens at the SSI project at Legal Services. Legal Services as a whole is a phenomenal program. The SSI project, I was urged not to give people job resources who wanted to work and could work. I firmly believe that this is because of issues from funding from welfare. And I think that this is a detrimental dynamic. It is true that if somebody is working, you are far less likely, you're certainly not going to get benefits. So there is this awful, intersection between people who want to be working, but then they will not get benefits. So you would have to urge people not to work who could work. And often I would know with almost certainty that people would not get benefits. They would sit on under $300 a month when I almost certainly knew that they would not get benefits in the end. And I firmly believe that that was because my salary was being paid by welfare. So I firmly believe that this is a system that needs to change so that anybody who is struggling can get disability benefits.
Yeah. I agree.
But just the simple things. I'm trying to take care of myself. And
Seems like you're very positive while doing it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm trying to stay
and
positive.
you're a very good speaker too. Sorry, I was like,
Thank
I was
you.
gonna say more, but I'm like just in awe. Like you're a very good speaker.
Thank you. This is my mission and my purpose is to spread the word so that others do not struggle as I have, because withdrawal is almost 100% preventable if you know the risks. And I knew nothing at all.
Of course, and I mean, you should have been informed of that because I mean, you're taking that medicate. You know what I mean?
That's
something
like your
that's
health
in your body,
right?
So you
Right,
figured
whatever
that
you put into your body. And I was not informed. And so many people are not informed.
and that can be very scary too. And I've seen some of your TikToks as well, and some of the times where you've been dealing with some of your withdrawal, and it seems very scary.
The hardships.
Yeah, it's very hard. It seems
Yeah,
very
there have been hard times. I try in my social media to show both the good times and the bad times, because I think that it is bad to always show the sunny side, because there are good days and bad days.
Right.
Withdrawal comes in waves and windows. So you remind yourself that after a wave, there will be a window, that you're going to be okay. And I try to ground myself. For me, being outside is very helpful. I was in the Dominican Republic for 2 weeks recently. Being out of the country and in the sunshine is something that is incredibly good for me. You find the things. I'm very lucky that I could go to the Dominican Republic. Many people do not have that luxury. But, I have very few fears. And, sometimes that's a bad thing, not to have fears. But, being outside for me, being inside my house, I know that I go down mentally inside. So I want to be outside in the sunshine and exercising as much as possible. There are many people who are overly anxious when they see me struggling. And that can often be detrimental to me when somebody comes and says, "Oh my gosh, I've been told that I should, that I should be scared. That I should be scared that if my leg might turn inward. That I should be scared that that I should place boundaries and I should not tell people. I am very, very transparent. I have firm boundaries for my family and for my child on social media, but I am very transparent with my child's father about what I talk about. And people have told me, no, don't leave your house. And for me, that is incredibly detrimental.
Mhm.
I urge people to find the things that they enjoy doing, to show for themselves.
Right. I definitely think that the positive aspect of it, and setting those boundaries is so important, and taking care of yourself is so important. Your mental health, your physical health, all of it is so important. So I definitely like how much you've hinted on, like, being positive about everything, and being and going through, as much as you do, and as much as the next person may go through. It's definitely that positivity is needed, because I mean, if you're negative about it all the time, it would just make someone, it'd make you miserable.
Mhm.
Yes, I mean, I have trusted wrong people this year. There are people who have had me paying for, I would have done anything for a cure. I had people who were giving me tarot cards and crystals and saying this will help you. I mean, in reality, those are not scientifically based things, and they did not help me. But I was desperate for a cure. And there's so many people who offer cures and say this will cure you. I think that is, I would have spent anything that I had to be okay. And those things do not, in fact, help you. I think that there are too many providers and practitioners who offer false hope. There should be hope, but it should be realistic.
I definitely agree about being realistic about things when it comes to your health and your, health in general. Just being straight up about it. You know what I mean? Because if you're not, then I just feel like beating around the bush in those situations is not something you should do.
Exactly. I was given a way too optimistic prognosis. I was told, I could pay enough money and I could be off of benzodiazepines by the end of last September. For me, for a long time, I felt like a failure. In reality, you have to listen to your body and go as slow as you need to go.
Yeah.
So this is, for me, realism instead of optimism when I was shuffling credit cards would have been better for me.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to stay optimistic too.
Yes, of course. I'm trying to think of any questions. Do you have any questions?
As of right now, I do not. But I bet you, if anything, afterwards, I'm gonna think of like 2 or 3 questions and be like, "Oh man, I should have asked that."
If there's any questions we think of, we'll definitely message
Yeah,
you.
we'll definitely reach out to you and ask them for sure.
Perfect. I greatly appreciate it. So you can share me the link when it goes live?
Yeah, of course. I
Yeah.
definitely will.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Let me just plug so I have a website. It's ellenlubensky.com. I have my podcasts and my articles there. I also recently created a charity, the mentalhealthchoiceproject.org. There's a GoFundMe there. There's transparent. My family put in the initial funds, so nothing that's donated goes to me or to set up funds. Anything that's donated goes to spreading awareness about informed consent to help other people not fall into the risks. And I am doing this, I'm assembling a board. This is very much above board. So if anybody has any messages of support or would like to donate to the GoFundMe, that would be terrific. We're going to get 501c3 status.
That'd be awesome. And that is awesome. You started that too.
For sure.
Yeah.
For your website.
Both my website and my charity website.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
that, and we will put it in the description as well.
Perfect.
And
Thank you so much.
if there are any comments on anything, you can definitely respond back to them and
Yeah.
answer any questions.
Perfect. I will shoot you in Facebook Messenger both of those websites.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today. It has been awesome speaking with you. And like I said, if you got any more questions or if we got some questions, we'll definitely reach out to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.